In the last video, we went over the conditional programming principles. We saw the if, elif, and else, and the match and the case. In this video, we will go over an example. So we right-click the main directory that we're working on. I'm gonna create a new Python file, and I will name it convert temperatures.py. Now, this program will convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit and vice versa. We will ask the user which type of conversion he wants and what is the value of the conversion. So this is a very simple conditional programming exercise. Over here we have the formulas that we will be using from Fahrenheit to Celsius and Celsius to Fahrenheit. So we will start by creating a variable which will be called conversion underscore type, and it will be equal to, we will take an input from the user and we will ask the user Celsius to Fahrenheit or Fahrenheit to Celsius. We will add parentheses. This will be 1 and this will be 2. Alright. Now the user will be expected to enter either 1 for Celsius to Fahrenheit or 2 for Fahrenheit to Celsius. And the input by default is always a string. We want to convert this to an integer because we expect an integer from the user. So we write the type that we want to convert this into and we encase it in parentheses. So now we have a variable called conversion type and we will take the input from the user. It will be either 1 or 2. Right, so seeing as we know what the user will enter, we can create an if statement, and if the conversion type is equivalent, as you can see I'm using 2 equals to check if they are equal or not, and 1 equal to assign a value. So if the conversion type is equal to 1, then I will write pass for now. Pass is basically leaving this blank, but you don't want any errors. This is convenient for when you don't know what you wanna type in this instant. And this will be Celsius to Fahrenheit, right? And here we will use an elif, which is conversion type equivalent to 2, and again pass, and this will be Fahrenheit to Celsius, and here we will use an else, and this will not be pass because I already know what I want to have as code here. We will write print your input is invalid. Try again. Alright, so let's talk a bit about this structure. My bad. We have 3 types. my bad, not three types, three cases, which is if the user had a input of 1 or had an input of 2, or they messed up the input and it wasn't correct, it will go to the else statement, which is why I used an elif and not a second if statement. So, well, all we have to do is fill these code lines, and that should be it. So for the Celsius to Fahrenheit, we will ask the user, or actually we could ask the user before we go into everything. We will create a variable called value, which will be a float type. And then we will take the input from the user, asking them enter the value to be converted. Right, so the reason why I didn't type this inside the if statements, it's because I'd have to type it twice, and in programming you gotta try to avoid as much as you can repetition. So if I type it once here, and then I can use it twice instead of typing it twice, this would be much better. In future cases, when I have taught you the loops and how to validate an input and all of that, the place might be different, but we will get back to this later. So if the conversion type is 1, we basically have to implement this formula. So this might get a bit confusing for new people who are new to programming and Python. But we have a value as a variable, and this will have the value that we want to convert. So its place in this formula would be here, where we have 0 Celsius, because this is basically the placeholder. So if I type 5, as you can see, it changed here. This is now become 5 Celsius. If I change it back to 0, that's it. So this is where the value variable that we have will be placed in the formula. So now let's implement this formula. We're gonna create a result variable, which we will assign it a value of value. Now the times in programming is a star, and I believe the formula is 5/9. Nope, my bad. It's 9/5. Now, in programming, the complex formulas, they always tend to go from left to right. So value times 9 will be executed and calculated before the 9 divided by 5. But in this formula, 9 is divided by 5 before. This is a fraction, not a normal division. So be careful for this mistake. And we put parentheses, and this is basically just solved now. We can add extra parentheses, and I believe it's plus 32 now. Yep, it's plus 32. I don't think these parentheses are important because, yeah, the times is done before the plus. So we have implemented now the formula. Be very careful about these types of mistakes that can happen. These are mistakes that can happen to anyone, really. So when we have the result, we wanna basically print it. So Actually, let's write it like that. Value, which is the value we already have, and we are converting from Celsius to Fahrenheit, so let's add a space. Celsius is equal to, and then we will add plus our result, and then we will add Fahrenheit with a space before it, and that's it. Now we have one small issue. This value is a float. The result is also a float. We cannot add plus to them when there is a string. So either the string should be also a float or an integer, and the result will be a number, or we convert these to a string and it will be a full sentence, which is what we want right now. So we should convert these to str for a string conversion, and this will also be str, and that's it. Now for the second case we have, which is Fahrenheit to Celsius, this is the second formula. In case, I don't know, you are in an exam or you have this as homework and you only have this formula, like your teacher or doctor only give you this formula, you can basically reverse it. So you basically go from the last equation you did and you put this at the start. So the last thing you did is plus 32. This is basic math. You make it minus 32 and then you add the parentheses, obviously. And then the thing after 32 that we did is times 9 over 5. So it would be times 5 over 9. We reverse the fraction as well. So value, my bad, result will be equal to value, and minus 32, we need the parentheses for it to do minus 32 before it calculates further, and times, don't forget the parentheses for fractions, 5 divided by 9. And now we'll print, we can copy paste, and we have to switch these Fahrenheit and Celsius. So let's check if our program is correct. Let's run Celsius to Fahrenheit or Fahrenheit to Celsius. Let's go option 1. Actually, let's test option 3. We have an error here. This will yield an error. Your input is invalid. Try again. Oh wait, no, my mistake. Yeah, we did actually take the input before we checked if this is right or wrong. So we will change this later, but it shouldn't be an issue for now. This is still correct, but this should be printed before we take the second input. But we don't have to do that right now. Let's just check if the program runs correctly. So 0 Celsius would be equal to 32 Fahrenheit, which is correct. And if we go for the second option and let's say 32 Fahrenheit, it would be equal to 0 Celsius, which is correct. Now, the last thing I want to do, let's just fix this. If I put it here and copy this again and paste it here. So here's the small issue. we did write this more than once, but this would make the program run better. So if you write 3, your input is invalid, but if we write a correct input, this should be fine. Right, or actually let's change it up again, and we will write it in a different way, because in programming there's always a different way to write things. Let's see. So we will be doing a input validation for this. We're gonna write an if statement. This will be a bit complex for the condition part. If conversion type so we want the conversion type to be either 1 or 2, right? Now double equal. Now you can write or. So the if statement, the condition will be true if either of these, like if either the conversion type is 1 or 2. For anyone that has coded in the past and is trying to switch from Python, this still works. The straight line, this is equivalent to the or, and the and is equivalent to the and, but in Python you can directly write or and the and. So here, if the conversion type is equal to 1 or conversion type is equal to 2, tab for this value to be inside the if statement, because as you can see here it yields an error. It says that there is an indent to be expected, so this value is not inside the if statement. So if I press tab for 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, now the value is inside the if statement. So if the conversion type is either 1 or 2, then we take the input and let's add these, the tab inside. These are all now inside this if statement. So if the conversion type is 1, we want these, and I believe we don't need the elif statement here. We can have a second if statement. So if the conversion type is 1, it will do this. If the conversion type is 2, it will do this. So this works because we only have 2 cases and it's either 1 or 2. I do not encourage you to use 2 if statements, because in future cases we might have a value that will have both these if statements run, where in this case we need each to be run by itself. If the first if statement is run, we don't want the second if statement to be run. Now, seeing as we only have 1 or 2, this is basically like the logic true or false. So if you consider the 1 to be true and the 2 to be false, you can basically switch this if statement to an else, because it's either 1 or 2. So if the conversion type is 1, you run this, and else there's only one case left, which is 2. You can write else. I will leave it as a second if statement. And we now have this structure, which if the conversion type is 1 or 2, we take the input and we do the calculations and print the result. Else your input is invalid, try again. This structure is much better, and it takes into consideration whether our input is right or wrong. This is called input validation. So now if I write 3, your input is invalid, try again. But if I write 2, for example, and let's say 32 Fahrenheit, that's correct, it's equal to 0 Celsius. And we did not repeat like the taking the input and creating the value variable many times. We only did that once, but with an extra if statement. So that's it for this video, and I will see you on the next one.